Welcome learners to this session on impacts of natural hazards and disasters part 2, which forms the next module of MEV 002 Environmental and Occupational Hazards. I introduce myself as Dr. Sushmita Bhaskar, working in the discipline of Environmental Studies in the School of Interdisciplinary and Transdisciplinary Studies, Indira Gandhi National Open University, New Delhi. So in the previous lectures, you would have understood the meaning of hazard, disaster and some impacts that are caused by these hazards. Let us now see some more details regarding the impacts of these hazards and disasters, and we will start with a case study, an interesting case study. After listening to this module, you should be able to define and explain the impacts of natural hazards and disasters with a case study. Now in the previous one, I had given you an example of the Bhopal gas tragedy, and now let us start with another important case study, and that is the Chernobyl nuclear accident. This accident occurred in the erstwhile USSR, Soviet Union, on the 26th April in 1986 in the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. This was designed to produce 1000 megawatts of electrical energy near the city of Pripyat in the north of Ukraine. This is considered as one of the worst nuclear disasters in history. Now this disaster occurred during a safety test that was conducted on an RBMK type nuclear reactor. Let me tell you that these tests were already conducted a few times even before this, and this was another one of them. And in the test conducted on that day, the power dropped to a near zero level, and the technicians were only able to partially restore the specified test power, but the reactor became unstable. After completion of the test, whatever they wanted to do, the operators triggered a reactor shutdown, and this resulted in an uncontrolled nuclear chain reaction. Now you will have an understanding of the nuclear chain reactions and nuclear explosions. Enormous amount of energy is released when such explosions occur in such cases, and the same occurred here, and this ruptured the reactor core. The radioactive material, which is really very hazardous, such as the strontium 90, cesium 134 and so on, were released. The radiation effects, acute radiation syndrome due to the absorption of high doses of ionizing radiation, were noted. Many more of them, the people died of radiation induced cancer death within the next 10 years. So the radiation effects were really a lot. Now after this, a protective Chernobyl nuclear power plant sarcophagus was built by December 1986, that was almost 7 to 8 months after the hazard, and this was done so that the reduction and the spread of the radioactive contamination from the same could be prevented. Again, this was enclosed in 2017 by the Chernobyl New Safe Confinement, but the complete nuclear cleanup is scheduled for completion in 2065. So you see, when it occurred in 1986, and the final completion of the cleanup is estimated to be finished only by 2065. Now this was one classic disaster that occurred only because of a human being. So this was an eye-opener, and the accident resulted in safety upgrades on all the remaining Soviet designed RBMK reactors, and 10 of them are still operational. So like even the safety buttons on that instrument, they were not working properly, and there were some more of these reactors, and all of them had the same problem, that when you click, the safety device did not work. So this accident was an eye-opener, and all the other reactors which were happening, which are now operational, at least some the upgrades could be done on those instruments. So the Chernobyl disaster is considered the worst nuclear power plant accident in history, both in terms of cost and casualties. The nuclear hazard effects. So this can be either initial or residual. The initial effects occur in the immediate area of explosion and are hazardous immediately after the explosion, whereas The residual effects can last for days or years and can also cause death. The principal initial effects are blast and radiation. So, this is the initial effects which are the blast and the radiation. So, the blast causes damage to lungs and it can rupture the eardrum, it can collapse structures and cause immediate death and injury. The thermal radiation, this causes fires, burns and also flash blindness. Radiation causes extensive damage to all the cells throughout the body. And then a person can also complain of headache, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea and even death. So, it depends upon the amount of the radiation dose that is received by an individual. In the same way, many radioactive events that have occurred in the past include the nuclear weapon detonations over Hiroshima and Nagasaki during the World War II, the 1979 Three Mile Island accident, the 1986 Chernobyl accident, which we were discussing in the previous slides, and the 2011 tsunami impacted Fukushima reactor. So, all these are examples and the radioactive events that have occurred over history. Now, there are some terms which we need to understand. The first one which is important is vulnerability. So, how do we define vulnerability? It refers not only to the possible physical effect of a natural hazard, but the way it affects human life as well as property. Now, generally, the less developed countries are more vulnerable to natural hazards than the industrialized countries because of lack of understanding, education, infrastructure and poor building codes. So, that is why vulnerability is an important aspect which needs to be understood. Vulnerability depends on a number of factors such as proximity to a possible hazardous event, the population density, construction styles and also the building codes, understanding and awareness of the nature of the hazard. Also, early warning systems. In some places the early warning system may not be there. The lines of communication and also emergency infrastructure. So, the vulnerability depends on all these factors. Now, in vulnerability, there are again classifications. The first includes human vulnerability. So, humans are vulnerable to natural hazards. There is a variability in the physiological response of the affected population. This means that given the same level of exposure, some people may die, others may be severely injured and still others slightly injured and maybe the rest will survive without any problem. Typically, the most susceptible to any hazard will be the very young, the very old and those with very weak immune systems. Agricultural vulnerability. So, as the name indicates, that means the agricultural land, crops, the plant and animals, they also become vulnerable to the natural hazards. Now, there are differences among and within the plants and the animals. Now, in agricultural vulnerability, this may be more complex than human vulnerability because there is a greater number of species to be assessed, each of which has its own characteristic response to each stress. Structural vulnerability. This arises when buildings are constructed using designs and materials that are incapable of resisting extreme stress. Maybe they are not able to take up the extreme stress such as high speed winds and also earthquakes. So, these structures are actually damaged, or those structures and the infrastructure are vulnerable to damage due to natural hazards. The construction of most buildings is governed by building codes to protect the life and safety of occupants from structural collapse. You would have seen in the mountainous regions and also in certain earthquake prone regions, the buildings are constructed out of wood and wooden material. So, there are certain building codes that need to be adopted in the for example in the slopey regions, slope. So, you need to take the slope factor and how the buildings need to be constructed in that area so that they can survive and they can resist this stress of these hazards. Social vulnerability. This has been defined in terms of people's capacity to anticipate, cope with, resist and recover from the impacts of natural hazards. It also refers to their susceptibility to behavioral changes. This varies across communities and also across households within communities. So, that was about vulnerability and the types of vulnerability. Natural hazards and human intervention. Human beings have an important role in ensuring that the natural events are not converted into disaster just because of their own actions. Because in that way, we ourselves can increase the frequency and severity of certain natural hazards. For example, when the toe of a landslide is removed for settlement, then we can see that the earth can move again and it can even bury the entire settlement. Now, the human intervention can also increase vulnerability. How? It could be by the development and habitation of lands that are susceptible to hazards, building on the floodplains subject to floods, sea cliffs subject to landslides, coastlines subject to hurricanes and floods, or volcanic slopes subject to volcanic eruptions. Also, we can increase the severity or frequency of a natural hazards. Some examples include overgrazing or deforestation, which can lead to severe erosion, mining groundwater that can lead to subsidence, and construction of roads on unstable slopes leading to landslides. Now, the human intervention in natural process can increase vulnerability also by reducing the mitigating effect of the natural ecosystem. So, our ecosystem, they have their own management technique of mitigating and reducing the effects of these natural hazards in their own way. But if we intervene, for example, the destruction of the coral reef or the destruction of the mangroves, these are all the shore and the coastal areas, first a line of defense, and that can protect the communities from the ocean currents, from the storm surges, and so this is an intervention that can diminish the ability of an ecosystem to protect itself. So that is why we have seen in certain regions and certain countries, people have started replanting the mangroves and certain other coastal plant trees which can mitigate the effects of these hazards naturally. Overview of assessing hazards. So now we have understood what are hazards, what are disasters, the impacts of the hazards. We should also know how to assess these hazards. Hazard assessment, also called hazard evaluation, hazard analysis. This is an important aspect, and this includes the process of estimating the probabilities of the occurrence of potentially damaging phenomenon of the given magnitude within a specified period of time. Hazard assessment. So this includes understanding when have the hazardous processes occurred in the past, where have the hazardous processes occurred in the past, the magnitude and frequency of the past hazardous processes. So if we need to assess some phenomena, we should know the magnitude and the frequency of the hazards that have occurred in the past. Also, the likely effects of a process of a given magnitude if it were to occur now. So, making all these information available in a form easily understandable to public officials responsible for making decisions in the event of a disaster. All this encompasses hazard assessment. The probability of a hazard occurrence can differ from place to place. The use of mapping to synthesize data on natural hazards and to combine these with socio-economic data will facilitate the analysis. It improves communications among people in the hazard management process and between planners and also the decision makers. Risk assessment. This involves hazard assessment. By this process, we can actually locate the buildings, highways and other infrastructure in the areas subject to the hazards. We can also assess the potential exposure to the physical effects of a hazardous situation. This risk assessment procedure helps the decision makers and scientists to compare and evaluate the potential hazards, decide on priorities on what kinds of mitigation are possible and on where to focus for the resources. So all these form a part of the hazard and the risk assessment process. Dear learners, in this module, we have understood the impacts of the hazards and disasters. We started the module with an interesting case study, an international case study, that which occurred in Chernobyl in erstwhile USSR. We have seen the impacts of the radioactive pollution and the radioactive hazards, blast, explosions. All this can cause genetic anomalies. For example, the Hiroshima and Nagasaki detonations which occurred long ago during the World War times. People and children really suffered a lot, and the children born, they had genetic abnormalities, teratogenic abnormalities, and this was really frightening. In the same way, the earthquakes, the volcanic activities, the floods, all these occur without giving us any warning or without giving us a notice, a substantial amount of the warning time. Therefore, the hazard assessment and risk assessment protocols and procedures needs to be in place. We need to understand and locate where the buildings occur, the highways, what kind of infrastructure material that can be used in the building management and the building codes. All this can help the architects and the decision makers and also scientists to compare and evaluate the potential hazards. And also we can also see how the mitigation, the kind of mitigation and the management that can be possible, and where we can actually focus on the resources. So these are all very important aspects. Thank you for your patient listening.